Okay, so I wanted to do a video on the whole situation with Divested Zealot versus Chrissy, and I feel like Divested Zealot definitely basically called Chrissy out for exactly who she was. Um, it's quite clear with Chrissy, you know, she does value black men very deeply. If she didn't, she wouldn't have the narrative she's had for a very long time with the preferences and privilege. So much of the time she's always tried to claim that there was colorism and that there was privilege when you're lighter skinned and things of that nature. And it's always been, in my perspective, weird because it's like, okay, so she will act like you are privileged, you are benefited when black men prefer you. You are privileged because you get the prize, right? And dark-skinned black men are somehow the prize. So it's like, okay, if you think black men are the prize and you are of that mindset, which is, incorrect because a lot of people don't view dark-skinned black men as the prize in the first place. So how can you be privileged to receive something that you don't even perceive as a prize, especially when that very thing is actually something that will cause you danger, violence, vulnerability, and possibly your life being taken away from you. Because when you reject a black man, that's what you run the risk of. So if you don't want black men and you are preferred by black men, it isn't a privilege. But honestly, she comes from that mindset that black men are the prize and that black men are desired by her. And because she has this mentality, sorry, charging the phone right now, she has this perspective that she basically moans and cries about not being the preference, and dark-skinned black women not being preferred. To me, this makes sense that obviously if you think someone is the prize, you would not want to talk about black men in a negative way because you already see black men as the prize. As in her previous video, she was talking about how there are good black men and how they are viable options and how they compare to black men who are not good black men, basically. So she has a different perspective than Divested Zealot, obviously. And, I don't think Divested Zealot is wrong about what she's saying about Chrissy, because if you look at Chrissy's platform, she literally says all the things that Divested Zealot was saying. Instead of like with Divested Zealot, for example, Chrissy said that divested platforms like hers were telling black women to basically go up to black men and be confrontational and tell them that they're not preferred, and put them in a dangerous situation. When Divested Zealot never does this. Instead, it seemed like Chrissy in her response video seemed very rattled and triggered because I think it's because Divested Zealot called her out for exactly what she was, and basically said, because she worships the image of black men, that she basically, would never try to portray black men in a view that is a negative view of them being violent and, harming black women. and how dangerous they are for black women. So, to me, another part that was important to point out was this. Chrissy tried to act like Divested Zealot was colorist, when in reality, if you actually paid close attention, Divested Zealot actually pointed Chrissy out to be colorist. Colorist against black women who aren't dark skinned, because she was pointing out that Chrissy would not care about the black women who were not dark skinned, the brown skinned black women and the light skinned black women. And I like that Divested Zealot pointed out that Chrissy doesn't care about brown skinned black women because Chrissy often tries to pretend she does care or that she's not of that mentality. She'll half fake that she doesn't really care one way or another about brown skinned women, but in reality, she has the same feelings towards brown skinned black women as she does light skinned black women. And I feel like maybe Divested Zealot actually sees this as a brown skinned woman herself and realizes that, Chrissy is not really in favor of most black women because most black women aren't dark skinned anyway. Most of us are brown skinned. So Chris doesn't care about most black women in the first place. She only cares about very dark skinned black women, and that's basically it. That's not really caring about black women, is it? If most black women aren't even meeting the requirement that she cares about. So to me, all in all, it kind of put a picture of the idea that actually Divested Zealot actually cares about all black women, while Chrissy only cares about a small percentage of black women, and that's basically it. And you could see with Chrissy, she couldn't address those points. She couldn't address the point of her constantly talking about black men's preference and those who are preferred having a privilege over those who were not preferred, basically implying that black men were the prize. She couldn't address that. She couldn't address the fact that she worships black men's image and the fact that she would never try to portray black men for who they truly are in these actually horrendous stories about how violent they are to black women in their lives. She doesn't want to face the truth, and a major thing with mammies like her, and I understand that she is a rainbow swirler, but a lot of rainbow swirlers have a commonality with a lot of women who are mammies and they have similar mindsets. But a major thing with them is this. When you prefer dark-skinned black men, you can't actually hold them accountable, check them, and actually shame them for their self-hate. Because the main problem that she really has is that dark-skinned black men don't love themselves. Dark-skinned black men hate their image. They hate how they look. And so because they feel that way about themselves, they are the loudest on how they hate themselves, basically. And they will basically vocalize how they hate the black women and the black children and the black men who have their same image. They will laud any image that doesn't look like them, basically, because at the end of the day, they hate themselves. And the problem is with her is she can't address that with dark-skinned black men because she loves dark-skinned black men. So she can't come for dark-skinned black men who hate themselves so much as hard as she should because she loves them. So what she does instead is uses transference and basically hates light skin and brown skinned black women and mixed women as well, and women that they prefer that are not dark skinned, basically. And she uses this transference to basically cloud what the real problem is. And she'll never get to the problem because she can't face that problem. That problem is too hard for her to face because she loves dark skinned black men. And what a mammy does is they don't hold black men accountable. They don't shame black men. They don't check black men. They coddle black men. So, how can you expect someone who coddles a black man to hold a black man accountable for anything? And this is why their image is not promoted because they can't hold those responsible for it accountable, you know. And Divested Zealot actually pointed this out, you know. And, you know, Chrissy could not address that. She had to just sweep right over that. Um, Another thing that I noticed with Chrissy was that she honestly isn't just the only one doing this. I think a major problem with the colorism movement and the colorism um, sufferers or the people who complain about colorism, I guess you could say, um, I think a lot of those people, their main problem is dark skinned black men and the fact that they can't address that there are dark skinned black men who hate their own dark skin. And they can't shame those individuals. So, what they do is focus on females who are light skinned and biracial and brown skinned to offset their real frustration, which is with dark skinned black men who have self hate issues. So, that's basically it. I mean, I think Divested Zealot only told truths, and I even saw some comments on her channel who were actually subscribers of Chrissy's channel who actually agreed and said she was actually right, which was obvious, you know. It seems like Divested Zealot tells the truth, you know. And a lot of people don't like that. Chrissy is all about basically um shape shifting, basically, in my opinion, and just basically trying to make things look a certain way even though they actually are a different way. She's all about that manipulation type of stuff. So, I mean, it's no surprise that she tried to make up accusations on Divested Zealot of being colorist when in reality, I feel like Divested Zealot has a really good message, and it's a good message for all black women to divest. And she definitely seems like to have a very strong message of unity, you know? And that's what black women need. We don't need to be divided like what Chrissy wants for black women to make one small sector of black women, dark skinned black women, only be the voice of a small percentage of dark skinned black women at that, you know, and to basically lessen our numbers, you know, make us divided so then we can't speak as one, you know, and we can't build on the commonalities we actually have in our ideology and, you know, our lifestyle. So, you know, I just think that honestly, Chrissy's platform is more destructive, and I feel like Divested Zealot is more based in unity and not really based in trying to tear other black women down, you know. Um, you could see by Divested Zealot's platform in her live, she did not try to come for people who talked about colorism or complained about it. She tried to come for Chrissy basically trying to lie on her and say that she said things and told black women to do things like be derogatory to black men when she never ever even implied that in the first place.